Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Saturday, August 31st, 2024, and today's topic is sketching an apple. So this will be a still life, basically, and I'll post a picture of the apple that I'm using. It's up there. I don't want to move the camera, but yeah, it's just find an apple or something similar and set it up to where you get a good lighting, like with shadow and stuff. But I wanted to go over a pen and ink approach and also talk about basically how to draw it and just some other thoughts that I have. So I thought it would be good because we talked about basic stuff this week, and to start off with, I'm just going to use like a pretty loose grip. So yeah, pretty much every video this week has been talking about stuff like how to hold the pen and just basic things like that. So I'm going to draw the basic shape that I see. So kind of a circle. And then I'll draw in the shadow shape. And this is good to learn about a lot of different fundamental drawing ideas. So one, the way I have the light set up, the shadow's pretty long. It's at least equal to the width of the apple. So once I get kind of this basic shape, then I'm going to look at the angles, because the apple's not perfectly round. So think about where it has some angularity. And as I do that, I can talk about pen and ink, which is also for pencil, basically linear. And by this, we're talking about drawing when we say the line. But there's different ways of putting down the line work. So you can make it sketchy, and you can make it like a contour where, for example, the stem is right here, and just kind of do a contour of it. Just draw the outline of the shape. Or you can put down these like kind of sketchy lines to kind of map out the shadows and the reflections. And then there's also this kind of thing where I put down like the basic shape, which was a circle, and then go over the line. It's a way of fixing the drawing and refining it. And the other thing is, next week I'm going to be moving into talking about color. So this will this goes with it. So one thing is, when you're doing a still life, you want to squint a little bit so that you can see the values, and so that'll be good practice for color also. So yeah, just draw in the different shapes that you see. But I'm going to leave some of this area open because I want to talk about like the difference between shadow and color and reflection. So that's why an apple is good, because it has a lot of different effects going on. So yeah, so one thing is to, like when I squint at the subject, this apple here, I see two main divisions of light and dark. That is the most obvious. And so that'll be this right here. Now, some of it has to do with the reflection, because an apple has reflection. But the two main masses of value is going to be, so the light is over here. So the main mass of values is right here. And then you have to think about, am I going to crosshatch? And how are we going to render it? I'm just going to use the same pen. So you could think about it like that. Like if you're going to use just one pen, you're probably going to want to first just sketch in the dark area. So we're going to go in, so we'll use a crosshatch technique. So I'm just going to go in the same direction. And so I've just divided between light and dark right here. And then there's this other shadow. I already can tell that this is going to be part of like where it's darkest, but I'm not going to worry too much about, like if I just go over it again, it already looks a little bit darker than these right here. So yeah, it's kind of important to keep the values going at the same time. Like if I were to go in and just make this as dark as possible, it doesn't really look like that, is my point. So you could still go in the same direction if you're cross-hatching, and it would still add like a darker value. So go in the same direction, and also the distance in the lines. You could have like the next thing that might be good is to think about like, are there any value gradations, like from dark to light? So I would still just keep it going in the same direction just for the sake of this example here. But I noticed that it kind of goes from dark to light like this. Also dark to light right here. So yeah, I'm going in the same direction, but it's starting to get some crosshatch effects. And what I'll do is I'll go in the other direction to really, once I get to like detailing. But yeah, as I look at this, I might think, you want to compare, for example, this apple is sitting on a surface. I'm not going to draw that part, but you can compare the difference. So the surface has a value. I mean, you could kind of like sketch it in if you want. I'll just go ahead and sketch it in a little bit. And so you can compare by squinting at it how much darker the shadow is compared to that surface. So I'm going to go over it again. Because it's a little bit darker. The other thing is, by doing it this way, you can start to like get the reflected light because the apple is shiny. So yeah, let's work on this light area here. The question next would be, how do you get it to look like glossy, because there's some glossiness going on? Well, you're gonna have to, you could try to draw it, but I'm gonna not do that. Well, actually you can, because to me it seems like the glossiness kind of has somewhat of a, it's like there's some right here and there's some like right here because of the form, and like a little bit right here, but it's not as defined. So that's like that would be like the brightest area, the highlight, I suppose. So next, there's some other things going on, such as the difference between, there's red and then it like has some green, but if you squint at it, since you're doing black and white, you can't obviously put red or green on here. So the next thing is to think about what the value is. So there's some form going on right here, and pretty much the red and the green blend together when I squint at it and look at the value. It's pretty much the same value. There's also the thing of the speckles that are in apples in the coloration. So you can imply some of that by just using some line work. You can put a little bit of this, but it's pretty subtle because when you squint at it, it pretty much blends together. But with all of that said, to get this to look like a real highlight, you have to make this look darker, but not as dark as what you put down here. Now, if you make this dark, but it matches that, you're gonna have to push this to be darker. So just something to keep in mind. So I'm gonna go kind of like this along with the form to describe some of the form, and also this way it'll kind of get that apple like texture and color. It'll start to imply color. Like, it's just something to keep in mind because you're doing it in black and white. So let's just do that real quick. I didn't set a timer, by the way. I'm just gonna sketch. So yeah, keep an eye on this for the stem. Just to get that shadow side, I'm just gonna thicken the line. And so that's another line work kind of thing, where just by making the line thicker, it adds dimensionality. So then next, just compare like this. So basically this is red and green, and then I'm going to compare it to like the actual shadow, and I'm going to go like a little bit darker on the shadow. And so what this will do is differentiate between light and shadow, but also start to suggest texture, because they're both happening. Not only is it in shadow, but it's also shiny. So yeah, you want to step back and compare. So like I mentioned, I'm going to go the other way now to like really separate the light from the dark, but also to get the glossiness of it. And yeah, like step back and compare. And see if not only is it showing light and dark, but is it starting to look shiny or not. And just carefully add the values to it. Now, this is good practice to understand stuff like value, to understand reflected light. So for example, there's actually reflection here, but it's not as strong as the reflection here, but it is light. So you have to think, I mean, if you kind of look at it, I can draw this in, and that makes it look more glossy, because if it's glossy or shiny, it's going to have a harder reflection than, say, something that is soft. So those are just some things to think about. So see, that's the sketchbook paper. The white of the paper shining onto the apple. And again, think about like the gradation of it. Like this is going to blend down into like dark, and then to that light right there. When we look at the shadow, I noticed that, again, because of reflected light, this area isn't as dark as like this outer area. So I'm just gonna, to suggest that, I'm just gonna go over it again. So it's a matter of studying things like the shadow area here, but also comparing it to your actual drawing, since everything is relative. So it may look a certain way on the subject, but you also need it to look correct in your drawing. So that's why with this method, it's kind of better to gradually build up. The line that you put down is going to be the darkest anyway, because it's the black of the ink. So you're starting to get a little bit of shininess here. Again, squint at the color. Like the red and the green actually look pretty similar in value. But it's always good to practice from life like this. And then, like I said, I'm gonna start doing some color studies and talking about that, and then moving on to painting and stuff. So just doing it methodically. And yeah, once you kind of get to this point, you pretty much know, for example, that this will be kind of like the darkest area. Like you've mapped it out, so you know like 1, and then like 2, and then 3, this part right here, and then like 4 would be the shininess right here. And I'll do another where I use some color like markers and stuff to start talking about color and painting. But before I sign off, I wanted to just say thank you for 1,000 subscribers the last time I checked. That's amazing and very encouraging. And I'm gonna keep working on this. So yeah, hopefully this gives you some ideas and inspiration for your own sketches. And until next time, keep on sketching.